Shall we begin?
Holy Toledo!
Oh, no! Oh, well.
You homer!
Thank you.
9 to noon.
Hey, Paul Allen here. Found the heritage piece for this Talker Tuesday. KOA Radio in Denver. I'm here. Nordo is there. And 9 to noon is in the air from Boston to Denver and every town in between. This is Avs country. You see, the defending Stanley Cup champions, Nathan MacKinnon, has at least a point in 26 consecutive home games. Yes, they are quite formidable, these champion Avs, but the last time they hung 10 on an adversary was March 6th of 1995 when they were the Quebec Nordiques. We, as in the Minnesota Wild, did it yesterday, and it rocked the hockey world, even from Denver to Delano and Loveland to Lakeville. First, it was a jewel of a lid lifter.
Starting in left side, Boldy spinning through one in front, they score! Erickson has scored again for the Wild. It's a 4-game goal streak.
Then, down 4-1, it's Boldy.
Boldy right circle, took a shot, he scores! Matt Boldy stays red hot, and the Wild with some life.
Oh no, we're still down 5-2 to the dreaded Canucks. They still were chasing the game, then Zucchi cut it to 2.
Roll it to Zuccarello. Came out, threw one in front, they scored! A favorable bounce for Zuccarello. It's a power play goal.
And after that, the Couve lead was won.
Bottom of the right circle, up top Hartman. Right back to Zuccarello. Thrown in front, they score! Erickson at it again!
Then it was tied on the power play.
Still no whistle. Still no whistle. A man scramble. Where is it? Underneath the Canucks player. Still no hold and play. It's squeezed loose. Boldy to Zuccarello. Tapped up. Kaprizov scores! Kaprizov ties the game with a power play blast.
The Vikes firing a bullet, Tom Reed giggling, and after that, the Hattie and the lead.
Erickson scores! It's a hat trick for Erickson! Zuccarello set him up! The Hats come streaming down in the Wild with another power play goal and a 6-5 lead!
Marco Rossi.
Lucchini on the forecheck, dug it free. Spike one in front, they score! The Wild have kicked the extra point. Lucchini from a side angle got another favorable bounce for the home team, and it is 7-5.
After that, it's like, ooh!
Boldy trying to sprint it. It's got a step left side. Boldy cutting behind the net. The threw it in front. Kaprizov scores! Are you kidding me? The Wild strike again!
And after that, Besser for them gave Burnsville natives a reason to smile, but number 9 for us was more than fine.
Left wing corner, Brodin sails into the empty net. He scores! Jonas Brodin may have well just sealed the deal. It's a franchise record 9 goals in a single game for the Wild. This one into the empty net.
Haven't they cried uncle? Kirill, Hattie.
Here's Kaprizov again in the empty net. He scores! Unbelievable! It's a hat trick for Kaprizov with 1.9 seconds to go, and the Minnesota Wild have put up a 10 spot. They lead the Canucks 10-7. It's a franchise record for goals in a single game, and this one has been absolutely chaotic from out.
This is 9 to noon from iHeartRadio sister station KOA. It's a heritage piece here in Denver. Nordo, mad producer, produces at FM 100.3 KFAN. We also thank Shannon Scott and Chad Bauer with KOA and iHeart Denver for the assistance with yours truly, able to do the radio show today from Denver. And now we go to Winnipeg, where we are joined by Joe ODonnell. He called them all on the fan yesterday, and Joe joins us now. Have you ever called a 10 spot? I mean, at any level, anywhere, and good morning.
Thanks, PA. No, I don't believe so. Done a lot of pro hockey games in my life, as you know, and I think that's a first. And boy, it was, just the third period alone. Thanks for the trip down memory lane there. I like your Marco Polo bit, and I also like the uncle. And they waved the white flag yet, because, man, yesterday was crazy. I still am kind of in disbelief.
Did you even get a second in that 7-goal third period to, sip on some water? It was just so lickety-split.
It was, it just felt like every time they shot the puck, it went in. And, it was all in the first few minutes of the third period, it felt like, for a while there. It was power play after power play, and just get it to the net, and one of your top skill guys is just wiring home a one-timer. No, it was such a barrage that, honestly, I didn't really stop to think I don't even think it dawned on me that there were 7 in the third until, I'm looking at my little score sheet and I'm doing the math here, and I'm like, well, not only they scored 10, but 7 just came, in the final 20 minutes. So, definitely one to remember for a long time. And look, maybe more importantly, the Wild needed those 2 points badly, badly. And great for them to get it and stay right in the mix.
Now, your analyst analyzing immortality, Tom Reed, mean, when he wasn't giggling, he's seen more than both of us combined. And he had to be left all wide-eyed with that 10-goal performance in beating Vancouver. What Tommy think of that whole thing?
I think he kind of thought the same thing, which was, boy, that was a lot of fun, but also about as crazy as thing as you could imagine. I mean, you see it all the time, PA. It's so much fun to go to games because you never know what's going to happen, right? Think about the 19,000 people that go to that game. A lot of them kids. It was the Wild next-gen game, so there were a lot more on President's Day school-age kids probably than a normal 7 p.m. home game. And they were treated to history. I mean, that's Wild history right there. So I think for Tom and I, it was just fun to take in that performance. And yeah, you're right. He was laughing a lot because it was just fun to watch. It really was.
These Minnesota Wild beat Vancouver at the X yesterday, 10-7. Joe ODonnell, play-by-play voice for the Minnesota Wild, called them all on KFAN. At Wild Joe, at Wild Joe Hockey, right? I mean, I seem to have lost
radio.
This. At radio, thank you. At Wild Joe Radio. At Wild Joe Radio via Twitter. I appreciate it. Now, I purposely did not look this up. You're an elite hockey mind. Because I'm going to make a statement, and go ahead and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm missing something. Joel Eriksson Ek is the hottest player in the NHL, isn't he?
He's got to be. Guys like Nathan McKinnon, who you referenced a minute ago, and Austin Matthews, who now is at 49 goals on the year, they probably like a word with that statement. However, Connor McDavid just had a 6-assist game the other day. But Eriksson Ek right now just set a career high for goals, and we still have 25 games to go. I mean, he's going to break the 30-goal plateau. That's a given at this point. He just continues to do everything for this hockey team. It's been unbelievable, the chemistry and the play of him, Eriksson Ek, Kaprizov, and Boldy on that top line. The power play now with 4 goals on 6 tries yesterday, a bunch of them on the 5-on-3, just padding their stats like crazy. But Eriksson Ek has been so good. He's so invaluable for this Wild hockey team. I think he's, somewhat recognized nationally, but not nearly enough. And I asked Matt Boldy about that yesterday on the postgame show. It was like, how much do you guys kind of value him? Because nationally, he doesn't get a ton of love. And Matt Boldy just sung Eriksson Ek's praises about what obviously an engine and a driving force he is for this Wild team. He scored in 4 straight for the first time in his career. And, right now, if you're a betting man, I'd be playing a lot of his props and whatnot because he has just been just so consistent, so dominant, and he does in all phases of the game.
Matt, producer, was at the X yesterday for 9 to noon, feeling that vibe. What's up, E?
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. And Joe, into yesterday's game, conversations I was having, Kevin Gorg, Bally Sports North, Russo joins and such during the show from the Bob Kurtz Radio Center. The conversation kind of surrounded about how does this team, who was on the cusp of winning 5 straight, respond today with the best hockey team in town? And we saw, obviously, what happened, and very inexplicable in so many ways. But now on the back-to-back, you're up in Winnipeg, and now you have to respond against a very difficult Winnipeg team. They're fresh off, I think it was a 6-3 loss that they sustained to Calgary. So now I'm already trying to project how this team, who stood so tall yesterday, can kind of get back up against the feisty Jets later today.
Yeah, it's a great point, Nordo, because you're right. Winnipeg got pretty much blasted in Calgary yesterday. They were up 3-1. They gave up 5 unanswered, lose 6-3. The Jets lately have struggled a bit. I think in their last 9 games, just 3 wins, if I remember correctly from what I was looking at on the flight here last night. But you're going to have a spicy Jets team, and you're going to have a Wild team that certainly remembers the 2-game home and home late December, the 30th and the 31st, where the Jets won both games. Both were close, but the Wild suffered a couple injuries up here in Winnipeg on December the 30th. Kaprizov, that cross-check we all remember. Gustafson was hurt in that game. Vinny Lettieri blocked that shot that cost them, 5 weeks' time. So it was a rough game here for Minnesota. And then New Year's Eve, the Jets scored 2 in the third to stun the Wild and win there, win in St. Paul. So it's a huge game for the Wild. You're going to have a Jets team that's not happy about their results recently, and I expect it to be a fun one.
It's kind of amazing in short stints, like that loss against Buffalo on Saturday. You kind of put the season, these singular games, because each one matters so much. And I felt it even in the second period yesterday. You're down 4-1. You get the second goal from Boldy. And it almost felt like a playoff game in a way where that's weird, but there's the urgency there as a fan, and every game, every point matters so much. In the end, when you look at what this team has done under John Hines, not necessarily the gaudiest of records, but 22-13, that's a top 10 operation in the NHL. And this is, and you can put those asterisks in there, I think, as well, because of the injuries and because of the injuries to important pieces. So whether it's the Declan Chisholms arriving on the scene, defensive brilliance, and then getting the goal, things like that. But guys playing the way they absolutely have to. Jules Eriksson Ek, Kaprizov doing their thing yesterday. The way that they have operated under John Hines, I think, has to be praised in a big way if you can get yourself far enough out to look at the overview.
Yeah, I agree. And look, there's been bumps in the road. You look at the 2 games prior to the All-Star break. You're leading at home, with Nashville and Anaheim, and you don't come up with a single point in the standings. You go into that long break, and you're like, boy, that was a missed opportunity. That was their chance, right? Then you come out of the break, you start winning hockey games, and then you have that hiccup against the Sabres with 30 seconds left, and you settle for just 1 point in overtime, and you feel like, boy, that was a missed opportunity. Then you're down 3 goals to the best team in hockey, and you find a way to win the game. And you're like, all right, maybe we stole a couple points here. So it's going to be an emotional sort of up and down the rest of the way. They have been great under John Hines. The style of play, the way they're playing right now, that's what when I listen to John Hines before and after games, I try and pick out some of those things that are a little telling. And he's been talking lately about how they're playing, the commitment level, the mindset that you're going to need if you're going to win big games down the stretch. We saw it the last couple of games for the Wild, really during this now 6-game point streak. We've seen it. They've exhausted themselves physically and emotionally in these games. That's taxing, right? They got to do it, over the last 25 or so regular season games. They want to have a shot. That's just the reality of the spot they put themselves in. But I think if they continue to do that and play the right way, they're going to be right there at the end. They have head-to-head matchups still with St. Louis and Nashville coming. They have Seattle later this week, right there for a wild card spot. So, this is a big week for the Wild. It begins here tonight with Winnipeg, and they just got to keep it rolling.
Hey, Radio Joe, last one here, and thanks for the time. Back to yesterday for a second. middle-ish second period, down 3. Didn't it kind of feel like Vice President's Day in that you guys would just never get to the top?
Certainly. When JT Miller completed his hat trick to make it 5-2 on what was kind of a soft goal for Philip Gustafson to give up, with how the Wild had been playing, with the fact that he gave up 2 goals on the only 2 shots he saw to start the first period, for stretches of that opening period, it just felt like, well, it's just not the Wild's night. But give them credit, PA. They did not quit. They kept hanging around, and the power play executed. And Vancouver's not an often penalized team, but when you give a team 4 5-on-3 power plays in a game, which is something I don't remember ever seeing before, and you score on 3 of them, you're giving yourselves a pretty good chance to hang around a game. And then from there, again, the skill players took over. Give the Wild full credit. It was a fun game. They deserved the 2 points at the end of the night. And, boy, it's again, one I think we'll remember a long time, especially if this team's able to reach the postseason.
My man, fantastic work on those goal calls, all 10 of them. Thank you very much for the time, and to fire a bullet tonight. I know that you will.
Thanks, PA. See you, Nordo. Take care, guys.
Yep. See you, bud. Minnesota Wild, 2 points from a wild card, just 2 to jump. Momentum is our friend. Thank you very much for listening to 9 to Noon. I'm Paul Allen. All of that courtesy of TimberTech and TimberTech.com, and the What's on Deck part of the equation at FM 100.3 KFAN. Here comes Nordo with that cash thing.
Download it now.
Joins 9 to Noon next. He's the voice of many things, including U.S. Bank Stadium. He is Alan Roach, the Vox of all Voxes ever to Vox. Alan at Mile High Roach. It's Paul Allen in your picturesque state at KOA Radio. And man, your last couple of weeks, holy cow! Where did you secure the best tan? Making that mailbox money, like Orlando in the Pro Bowl, Las Vegas in the Super Bowl, or this last week in Puerto Vallarta, voxing. What exactly were you voxing in Puerto Vallarta? And good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to the Mile High City, PA. Yeah, I left home on whatever the last day of January was, January 31st, and I got home yesterday.
Jeez.
Puerto Vallarta is college softball. It's a long running, I guess. I've only done it for 2 years. This is my second year. I told him I wanted to sign a lifetime contract. Works out great. The week after the Super Bowl, the day after the Super Bowl, I fly to Puerto Vallarta and announce college softball. It's some of the best teams in the nation that come there for. It's not really a tournament, not a bracket tournament. They just play a certain number of games. And as far as my suntan, I took some grief in the pool at Puerto Vallarta with my wintertime Colorado tan, which looks like I'm wearing a T-shirt the whole time.
Well, I mean,
I brought rain with me everywhere. It rained in Orlando, it rained in Vegas, and it even rained in Puerto Vallarta, which I was told never happens.
Holy cow! So when you're working college softball, even in Puerto Vallarta, like when you work college sports, do you get NIL or just like a straight paycheck that goes towards a 1099, or is there some NIL in there?
Yeah, there's no NIL money, but I can change teams pretty much anytime I want.
When you were in Mexico, and I've been to Puerto Vallarta a couple of times and absolutely love it. It's it's antithetical to Cancun or to a certain extent Riviera Maya. I've never been to Cabo, but it's just so very peaceful in Puerto Vallarta. Did you get an opportunity to traipse around the Malecon much for like those free tequila samples to enhance the dulcet tones?
I went from the airport and Ubered to my all-inclusive Sheraton resort with my beautiful wife. And then the softball field was 2 blocks away, a 5-minute walk. So between the all-inclusive Sheraton and the softball field, that's the only places I went other than an Uber back to the airport yesterday. But what a great trip. And yeah, you're right. Puerto Vallarta is so laid back. I mean, I'd never actually even been to Mexico, anywhere of those, none of those places you mentioned. I've been to 20 countries and never been to Mexico till last year. And I was shocked at how laid back it was. I thought it was going to be, a bunch of college beach stuff, the typical spring break, and it is just not in Puerto Vallarta. I think the clientele that they attract is maybe a little bit older, which I guess fits my demographic, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's a scam to be had on the Malecon with the free tequila samples because there are just so many places trying to sell you timeshares and trying to get you locked into a certain tequila brand and, like sign something where you receive X amount of bottles over X amount of months. But there is a little scam to be had if you're into that because, you could probably sip like 2 shots of tequila at one place and just kind of string it along like, yeah. And then all of a sudden, I'll think about it and I'll come back. And, about after 4 or 5 of those stops, man, you end up stumbling your way back to that Sheraton. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I used to do that in my younger days. I think Orlando is where I did that some because you got, park tickets or whatever by going and listening to someone talk for 2 hours. And then it's like, 2 hours is up, I'm out.
Yeah, everybody listening to KFAN and on the free iHeartRadio app, that's that voice that you recognize. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to U.S. Bank Stadium. The White Zone is for loading and unloading of passengers only. He's Alan Roach, Vox of all Voxes ever to Vox, and at Mile High Roach is where you find him via Twitter. So when do you leave for Korea? And what are you doing in March in Korea?
Yeah. I was actually flying to Orlando for the Pro Bowl and got a phone call. Hey, call me right away. As well, I'm on an airplane. I can't call you. I'll call you when I land. And Major League Baseball invited me to announce the Dodgers and Padres are going to Korea in the middle of March. They're going to play 2 games each against Korean teams as preseason warm-ups. And then the Dodgers and Padres play each other March 20 and 21, something like that. And those are the first 2 regular season games of the Major League season.
Wow, that's
and I will get to announce those.
Well, so like I've been here nearly 3 days, like 2.5 days. I got here middle of the weekend. And I didn't realize you were still in Puerto Vallarta, but the Coyotes, the Yotes were at Ball Arena. Ladies and gentlemen, your Colorado Avalanche. Man, it would have been nice if I even had a chip chair and a chance to slide into your chair at Ball Arena that Sunday night to do some voxing of all Voxes ever to Vox with the public address stuff. I didn't even think to ask. But more importantly, you thought so little of me, you didn't even ask me, Mile High Roach.
If you recall, about 18 months ago, during the Stanley Cup run, I offered you a Nathan McKinnon jersey. Yeah, thought it would be a nice gesture, and you thought that I was drinking margaritas on my deck.
No, I don't.
So I just assumed you didn't want to have anything to do with the Avalanche.
No, I didn't want a McKinnon jersey. 26 consecutive games at home with at least 1 point. Yes, he is a game changer. I just wanted to jump on that microphone in your stead Sunday at Ball Arena. Do it the right way, like Colorado Avalanche. But then all of a sudden, like the Coyotes were keeping it close, maybe give an extra little spark or a little burst into those Coyotes public address type calls like Matt Dumba. I don't know if the crowd would have liked that, man, and they probably never would have had me back, right?
Yeah, you may have been thrown out of there. That's a pretty good rivalry, Minnesota and Colorado, and there is always a ton of Wild fans at the Wild games here in Colorado. I think a lot of it is Colorado's obviously a destination city. You can come, you can go skiing, whatever, but a lot of transplants too. I know there's a lot of people from Minnesota that made their way out here that live out here now.
Speaking of Minnesota, your favorite football team, the Minnesota Football Vikings, the NFL draft is still quite a distance on the horizon. Yours truly this day next week. I'll be at the Indianapolis Scouting Combine for back-to-back days of radio trying to establish some intel. Do you think with a right to change the opinion, Vox, do you think the Minnesota Vikings select a quarterback at 11?
Well, I don't know. I'm terrible at those things and guessing, and all I do is read other people's opinions so I can latch onto one of those. I don't have any original thoughts.
Come on, man.
I don't know how it works. I'm so non-educated on the whole money thing and what money against the cap and dead money and what happens when you get rid of a player before the other. I don't understand all of that. I just know that I would love to see Kirk Cousins throw for the Vikings for 2 more years.
Same.
That's what I know.
It'd be nice if Daniil Hunter, a free agent, was able to stay here too. But say he goes to Jacksonville because they got a ton of cash. They got this game changer named Josh Allen, the other Josh Allen. They got this Trayvon Walker, I believe his name is, and he's quite good too. And we play Jacksonville next year, so we'll be following that very closely from the scouting combine. You don't have to have original thought when you have mailbox money. So therefore, you're doing it right, my brother. And I'll text you after the radio show today. Okay.
Outstanding. Enjoy your stay. How long are you here, Paul?
I will be leaving tomorrow and back on KFAN on Thursday, man. I just love it out here. I wish I could stay a little longer, but can't swing it this time.
Safe travels to you. Hope you had a great time in the mountains yesterday.
Yep, Breckenridge was terrific. Appreciate you, brother. Talk soon, all right?
All right, PA. Bye-bye.
Alan Roach at Mile High Roach, Vox of all Voxes ever to Vox. He's the public address announcer at Ball Arena for the Avs. He does the Super Bowl, U.S. Bank Stadium, Puerto Vallarta College softball, and he's off to Korea very shortly to Vox of Major League Baseball. He is a game changer. He is Alan Roach. Vikes Bites around the corner. It's 30 minutes past the hour. You're listening.
KFAN, The Fan.
KFAN News Time, 9:36, and I'm Paul Allen from 850 KOA News Radio. Back at R32 FM 100.3 KFAN is producer Eric Nordquist with some Vikes Bites.
Vikes Bites. Vikes Bites.
Vikes Bites! Just to hit the trifecta. Vikes Bites is brought to you by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. Go to thousandhillslifetimegrazed.com and you can learn more not only about regenerative agriculture, but the delicious and incredible products that they have, the variety, the spectrum of all the cuts. You can buy in bulk with special packages, the beef sticks, the brats and dogs. It's all good. Go to thousandhillslifetimegrazed.com. Reports coming out, PA. You probably saw this, or maybe you were you snowboarding or skiing on the mountain this weekend? Which one did you prefer when you're out on the slopes, PA?
Attacked the diamond roots in a way that would make Franz Klammer blush.
But while you were doing that, hitting the moguls, navigating the moguls not only of the hill but of life, the reports of the 2024 salary cap came out, and the cap is bound to rise, apparently estimated around $250 million. Let's just call it $250, which is just over a 10% increase over the 2023 season. That puts, according to Spot Rack, that puts the Vikings with about $30 million in cap space. Now, as it is now, that $30 million in cap space, that is taking into account dead money from a certain quarterback, right around 28.5. That takes into account the dead money for a certain outside linebacker / high-end 4-3 defensive end, which is about 14.9. Let's call it 15. So that takes that into account with that $30 million in space. It also has a $19 million hit for a Justin Jefferson, who is still awaiting a contract extension, and it also includes a $19 million hit for Harrison Smith. And that is something we haven't really talked about 9 to noon, but that would certainly, I'm sure, be on the to-do list of a GM. So lots of work to do, but as this stuff comes about, still waiting for dominoes to fall, you can kind of see the clouds clearing a bit, PA, in terms of what the money situation looks like. We're not capologists. We're not Rob Brzezinski. We're not digging deep into void years and all of this. But as it stands, that $30 million, not a bad number to work with as we head into the combine, free agency, and beyond.
Well, it certainly beats the alternative of what we've experienced for X amount of years when it comes to salary cap money. And, it's just the strangest thing in the world how the whole thing can be manipulated. And it's just not for me. I mean, there are capologists, like you're the 9 to noon capologist. So when I'm overwhelmed by Roman numerals or by Kirk Cousins' dead money, and it's like, okay, so let's say if he leaves, then it's like we still, what? If it goes up to wherever it goes up, everybody else goes up too. So, I mean, I would imagine here at KOA in Denver, Broncos fans, listening to Dave Logan and Alfred Williams and Afternoon Drive, they're probably celebrating their own way where they're like, yes, maybe another 10 million on the cap, which means we're only minus 15. So, I mean, but again, trying to figure that thing out with okay, well, this guy's going to get cut, that guy's going to get cut. Then you get the restructures and the whole thing. You ask players to take pay cuts, which, I would imagine is always a very comfortable conversation, but it only helps. Now, the strange thing to me is there have been years the Vikings have been like around zero on the salary cap, maybe a little in the plus or a little in the minus. Then I catch wind they're like close to a deal with, say, guard Kelechi Osemele or tackle Russell Okung. And then I'm just like, how? I mean, I just don't understand how. But then all of a sudden they look at the state income tax situation, and funny, they both end up in California, but that's a conversation for a different time. So I don't really understand the entire thing. There are some players here that obviously are being thought about pretty extensively for the future of the franchise, and I'm talking about Justin Jefferson, Christian Darrisaw, first and foremost for those two. Then you get to Cuzbuzz. So, storing those metaphorical nuts for that symbolic day, that free agency's right around the corner, man. A lot of what's going to go into the future of the Minnesota Vikings quarterback situation, I believe, is going to be mostly settled within the next couple of weeks.
I got to do this as an aside to the Vikings portion of Vikes Bites just for a moment. Mm-hmm. And I'm just curious, while you've been in Denver having conversations with those at the radio, you mentioned Shannon and Chad who got us on the air today. Yeah. I mean, they're nearly $30 million underwater at this particular stage. And Sean Payton, by the way, when he was head coach, when he was back in New Orleans, they had a similar issue with Drew Brees. And because, again, you mentioned we're not capologists, at one point into the offseason, they were nearly $80 million underwater and somehow were able to just make it disappear. So void years here, restructures there, all of that, they made it work. But if I'm a Broncos fan, and I think they finished 8-9 or 9-8, I forget which one it was, but I'd be sweating the decision with Russ. Like, you escape to the Mile High, see baby girl, find some peace and all of that, but you haven't escaped the drama of an NFL franchise that has needs and looking for cash to pay them off.
Yeah, and thus what do we got now? 8:42 local, 9:42 Mad Producer time. So about an hour and 5 minutes from now, we're going to slide in the play-by-play voice of the New York Jets, Bob Wischusen. And there's purpose behind that, having the Jets Vox as we are middle-ish, into the latter stages of February with the draft. That's several months away, a couple of months away. And the point being is the Jets select 10. All right. Yeah. So low key, we're going to start getting some intel on A-Raj and what he thinks they're going to do. Now we're at 11. Well, right behind us is the anti-Vike, Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos, and that fat ass minus 30 that they have on the cap. And Russ will become available. So bridge quarterback for the Vikings. That can be a conversation later involving Russell Wilson. But I mean, I think they're going to take a quarterback. And I've been here. Not a half week, but it's approaching a half week. And, there's just a little bit of steam that's beginning to emerge locally that Sean Payton loves J.J. McCarthy. And he's a quarterback from a pro-style offense with a strong arm. I'm not going to say he reminds him of Drew Brees. McCarthy moves more than Drew, and he's taller. And he's not as accurate. And Drew Brees is football immortality. But the anti-Vike covets the next Drew Brees. So just keep that in mind, when you're thinking 11. And if you're thinking J.J. McCarthy at 11, just know behind you have a desperate anti-Vike who basically will beg, borrow, and steal to get exactly what he wants from this draft from a quarterback standpoint. But pretty reliable individual informed me over the weekend that Payton is quite enamored with J.J. McCarthy.
Vikes Bites!
Vikes Bites.
Presented by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed. Are you familiar with the name Marcus Davenport, PA?
Yes, sir.
And it might be, you had to kind of stretch that memory a little bit. It needed to be jogged, of course, because we didn't see much of him after the first few weeks of the season, has that awesome, super physical game, couple games in a row with a sack started in Carolina. And then there was nothing to be seen or heard from one Mr. Davenport. This was reported yesterday. So the Vikings' one-year deal with Davenport had 4 voidable years on the back end of this that lowered his cap number. So again, we're getting into money here, and let's just say it lowered it to about $6.2 million.
Yeah.
But the deal voided yesterday, or was supposed to. We'll get to that. And it created another nearly $7 million of dead money. So Davenport got nearly $9 million for his signing bonus, his salary, and roster bonuses of nearly $500,000 for 4 games. But now there's an update, PA.
Oh, there's an update?
There's an update, courtesy of Kevin Seifert. The Vikings renegotiated the void date for Marcus Davenport's deal this weekend.
Wow.
It now matches the expiration date for the deals of a certain quarterback and a certain high-end pass rusher. And so a little more time to see if there's any common ground that can be found with Davenport. So his deal does not void until March 13th.
Okay.
And this is, I look at it less than kicking the can down the road to more about still trying to maneuver financially, one of the many things in this giant rat's nest that Kwesi has to deal with. Your thoughts on Davenport? If it was a super small number, would you think about him returning? Have you already just decided to move on from him? Davenport, as little as he contributed in 2023, he's still here for at least another few weeks.
Wow. The way you framed that up, if there was a renegotiated deal, and you said super small number, which means Davenport and his representative would have to accept super small number, which I'm not exactly sure would happen. And, copyright P.T. Barnum, who at one point said there's a sucker born every day. Somebody probably will give Marcus what Marcus feels he deserves. Personally speaking, if he's back on the team, man, I'm going to call his games. And, if he sacks the quarterback, it ain't going to be Z. It ain't even going to be D. But it'll be celebratory, and we want the Vikings to win. With that as an aside, I don't know what to expect from him. And if you don't know what you can expect from somebody, where from a reliability standpoint, you look at the past performances, I think we have 1 year where we either got all the games or close to all the games. And yeah, he's unbelievably strong. He is. I mean, that's one thing I didn't know about Marcus Davenport, who, by the way, never made an impact on a Saints versus Vikings game. He might have had 1 sack when we were in London. But I don't know. I think that ship has sailed. Personally for me, as a Vikings fan, that metaphorical ship has sailed, and I would look elsewhere.
Vikes Bites! Brought to you by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed.
What about you? You want anything to do with him?
No, I'm very happy to move on at this stage. Again, it's what are you going to get? That's the unknown in combination with what you will have to pay. This will not be a veteran's minimum type of vibe that I'm getting from it. I would just I'd rather turn the page on it, and hopefully at some point we'll get an update. What's up with DJ Wanham? I want to learn more about DJ's health and see where he's going. That's what I care about.
Yep.
And of course, Daniil 99 problems as we move forward with the defensive front. Now, Albert Breer, you're familiar with him, does a ton of reporting on the NFL. He reported this. The Vikings are not willing to give Kirk Cousins a fully guaranteed contract. Cousins has had a fully guaranteed contract, as we know, in each of his 6 seasons in Minnesota. And what do you think? So it's not about the numbers; it's what the numbers represent. Coming off of the Achilles tear, I have floated a couple of different times the idea of is it an incentive-laden contract for 2024, given when he plays, when he's ready to play, how all of that looks, and maybe there's something that builds off of that. But the idea of Kirk Cousins taking a non-guaranteed contract feels to me, at least over his tenure here, like that could be a tremendous sticking point in terms of the Vikings bringing number 8 back to the purple.
Damn, man. I mean, it's like 52 with not a cloud in the sky. It's a beautiful Rocky Mountain high day, and you're hitting me with the hardest questions in the history of Vikes Bites. I mean,
Sounds awesome.
Well, these are complicated. I mean, because to a certain degree, it involves speculation where, we would prefer to not speculate, instead low-key share what we believe the answer would be. And I guess maybe the discernment eventually will get us there. But I don't believe the Minnesota Vikings are as averse to guaranteed contracts as maybe some other people do. Now, if you want Cousins for 2 years and he wants it to be guaranteed, I'm not, I don't necessarily believe they're completely negative on guaranteeing that for him. Now, Jefferson, that's a different situation because he's younger, it's a longer deal, and it's going to cost markedly more. So, sadly, I don't like to turn it into gray area radio, but I'm like somewhere in between. I mean, I stick by what I said the last couple of weeks. I don't believe 2 years and $90 million has to be the deal for Kirk Cousins, guaranteed or not. In fact, I know it doesn't. Now, it might be, but I don't think it has to be. And I also still firmly believe Minnesota is the absolute preferred destination for Kirk Cousins and his family. So with that known, the give and take that's going to start taking place, on floors 2 and 3 after 10 p.m. at the JW Marriott, Indianapolis, that this is when the rubber meets the road on this whole thing. Now, so that gets us 11. All right. So if indeed giving guaranteed deals for more than 1 year, all right, if Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and the Will family and the Minnesota Vikings are negative on that with somebody who's going to be 36 during the course of the 2024, I'm not mad at that either. I mean, because I think over the course of time, if you're guaranteeing tens of millions of dollars to situations like that for veterans who have been around for quite some time, and I happen to be one that thinks Kirk's going to go lights out next year and be quite good for 1, 2, or 3 years. But sooner or later, you're going to have to get yourself into a rookie quarterback who's good and a rookie type deal. Thus, with Schusen, the Jets Vox at 10:47, followed by Brandon Cristal, a reporter and host for KOA who's plugged into the Denver Broncos. I'm at the home for the Denver Broncos right now to get his opinions and thoughts on the anti-Vike at 12, because that's a quarterback spot. I mean, we can go back a month, man, when we started fantasizing, saying I haven't heard it at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, but I just know how coaches and personnel people operate. They look at the 11 and they're like, well, we're not going to be picking here anytime soon, because the belief is you're going to build it up and make it markedly better. So that then led to the next thought of, all right, well, if you don't think you're going to be picking there, then why don't you just go ahead and beg, borrow, and steal and give what it takes to get up and get one of those nice 3. Specifically, Drake May. That's the one I prefer of those 3 for the Minnesota Vikings. Actually, of the 2, given Caleb Williams is going to go first, Jaden Daniels the other. Okay, well, I don't think that's reality either. So we're in pigskin purgatory per the gridiron gospel with Cousins, the speculation on the guarantees, people speaking on behalf of nuggets they're getting and how they're getting them and from whom. Well, I mean, that part of the equation is very key, too, when it comes to the Vikings are just Kwesi's negative on guaranteed deals. All right, some of that may be right, but I don't believe all of it's right. And then you get the 11 spot. You're blanketed, you're surrounded by teams that most likely are drafting quarterbacks. This is a very heated situation, the con.
It is, and you've mentioned Justin Jefferson a couple of times in the last few minutes, and the overtures that he's offered since the offseason began in terms of wanting Kirk back. I mean, I can read those tea leaves pretty clearly. I've seen quotes and other things from other members of the Vikings. Everybody loves Kirk. So if it's guaranteed dollars, not guaranteed dollars, they matter a lot, they matter a little. How much does the vocalization from the players matter to Kwesi when he's making that decision? Because really, he is on the doorstep. You mentioned that page turning. At some point, the greatness of Kirk, as good as he's been, that's not going to be there. When that downturn comes, you want to have that page turning option to a rookie quarterback. Right. This really is. If the Vikings wanted it out, this is the perfect time to do it in some respects. And so how much does the vocalization of players weigh in and kind of pollute that thought process? Not pollute's a bad word, but affect or impact that thought process, do you think?
It's a fair question, but until Jefferson or somebody of significance involved with the Minnesota Vikings offense publicly states, this is what I want, it's very difficult to guess. And when you're hired to run a football team, I mean, you can chat with your most important players about what they think would be best for the 2024 and or future. But I mean, to a man, if you go down that road and you start asking players their opinions of what they think about free agents and draft picks and stuff like that, it's fruitless.
Yeah.
Simply because 9.8 of them are watching no film or talking to no sneaky insiders on how people handle their lives off the field. And if they're not putting in the work, then how steadfast is the opinion? So, but then you want to stay authentic. You want to be authentic. You genuinely want to care and know what somebody's opinion is, specifically with the quarterback position and what they feel you should do moving forward. But really, until they start putting in the film work and the work that people put in for a living, I can't go down that road. Or that metaphorical rabbit hole, because like if you do that, well then, say the next player blows up on defense and, they want to start having opinions on the corners you're drafting. It never stops. And generally speaking, the players are wrong.
I'm with you on all of that. And my final bit here, final Vikes Bite for a Tuesday morning while you're in Denver. I saw this news yesterday that the Chicago Bears, now the Chicago Bears, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, it's Caleb Williams, so that's going to happen. I truly believe that end of April in the draft, so we can move on from that. But that then goes to Justin Fields. Now the Bears apparently didn't pursue options or haven't directly pursued options for Fields, but shockingly enough or unshockingly, they've received some phone calls on Justin Fields, and specifically they were contacted by some teams during the Senior Bowl. Is there a scenario, PA, in which if you put your GM hat on, you're Kwesi for an afternoon, that you would kick the tires on Justin Fields in acquiring him to lead the Vikings offense in 2024?
The quick fire answer would be no. And there are many reasons why, but for the purpose of time, with a Dane Moore on the Timberwolves and the NBA around the corner, and I want to have ample time with him, the answer would be no, because there's a difference, and it's a stark difference between trading within the division, days of draft, Vikes Lions, Vikes Packers, Christian Watson, stuff like that, and a team trading a quarterback to a team in the division. I mean, I can never remember it happening. Maybe it's happened. I'm sure I'll get put in a box here on Twitter, but that's fine. It's just not something that's en vogue. Secondly, now Justin did improve, once he came back from that injury that he sustained in the Beijing game, the game the Vikings won at Soldier Field.
Yeah.
In fact, nearing the end of the season, he went for 5 passing touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That ain't that great, but I mean, when it comes to the rushing piece, that's obviously very significant with Justin Fields, and he ran for 3 touchdowns after he came back 4 on the season. His accuracy was markedly better when he returned. In fact, Justin finished the season with a 61.5% completion percentage, which is pretty good. But we get back to the tug of war when it involves the term system quarterback. He's not that. Okay, he's just not. If McVay, O'Connell, Shanahan, all these coaches who run these systems that are quite good offensively and proven so, well, then to get somebody in there who may have found a swivel, but I'm not sure it's the right swivel, which means, Cousins is quality at, okay, first read, second read, third read, do this. Fields is not. And that's what's required to run this offense. Justin has a very nice arm. It's getting more accurate. And obviously, the running part of the equation can be a major advantage to somebody. I just don't think that's how they want to run offense here. So it's a fat 0 for me.
And that's Vikes Bites, brought to you by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. Quickest place to go, thousandhillslifetimegrazed.com for all the information, PA.
State of the Hal and some NBA conversation with the talented and learned Dane Moore at Dane Moore NBA around the corner. It is KFAN.